From the outside, my life made sense. That's what people said. Good job. Stable routine. No obvious chaos. Inside, something felt muted. Not broken, just quiet in the wrong way. I noticed it on a Tuesday. Nothing special about the day. No argument. No bad news. Just a moment where I realized I hadn't felt excited or deeply disappointed in a long time. Emotions had become background noise. Always on. Never sharp. I told myself that meant maturity, balance, growth. But late at night, lying in bed, I felt like I was watching my life instead of living it. I hadn't always been like this. I used to want things, strongly. Then life happened. Compromises, responsibilities, small decisions that felt harmless at the time. They stacked, quietly. One evening after work, I walked past a bar I used to love. Music spilled out, laughter, movement. I didn't go in. I rarely did anymore. Not because I couldn't, because I didn't see the point. That realization scared me more than loneliness ever had. I started noticing how often I chose easy over true, stability over curiosity, predictability over presence. It wasn't a dramatic crisis. No urge to run away. Just a question that wouldn't leave me alone. When did I stop asking myself what I actually wanted? The next morning, I sat across from her at breakfast. She smiled, talked about plans, the future. I nodded, participated, played my part. But there was a gap, invisible, growing. I didn't know how to name it yet, only that pretending it wasn't there was getting harder. That night, I opened a notebook I hadn't touched in years. Blank pages. Possibility. I wrote one sentence. I don't know who I am outside of being reliable. It felt dramatic and accurate. I closed the notebook, not ready for answers, but no longer willing to ignore the question. I didn't know then that acknowledging the absence was the beginning of something irreversible. Because once you notice you've gone missing, staying comfortable writing it down would help. That one sentence. I don't know who I am outside of being reliable. Instead, it followed me. To work, to conversations, into moments that used to feel neutral. Suddenly, everything had weight. At work, my manager praised me for being consistent, dependable, the one who never caused problems. I smiled, said thank you, but inside something tightened. When had never causing problems become my best quality? I started noticing how often I softened my opinions, how quickly I agreed, how rarely I said no. Not because I didn't care, because it was easier to disappear slightly than to explain myself. One evening, she asked me what I wanted to do that weekend. I opened my mouth, paused. I genuinely didn't know. So I defaulted, whatever you prefer. She hesitated, just a second, but I saw it. That look people give when they realize you're not fully there. Later that night, I went for a walk alone. No headphones, no phone. The city felt louder than usual, alive, unbothered by my confusion. I stopped at a bookstore I hadn't entered in years. Not because I planned to, because my feet carried me there. Inside, I wandered without purpose. Titles I didn't recognize, ideas I'd never explored. One book fell from a shelf as I brushed past. I picked it up. The cover read, "You don't find yourself. You choose yourself." I laughed quietly. Of course it did. At home, I opened the notebook again. This time, I didn't write answers. I wrote questions. What do I enjoy when no one is watching? When was the last time I felt curious? Who would I be if I stopped trying to be easy? The questions felt dangerous, not explosive, erosive. They ate at the walls of the life I'd built. Over the next days, I made small changes. I spoke slower, thought longer before agreeing. I said, "I'm not sure," instead of "fine." People noticed, not dramatically, just enough to make things slightly uncomfortable. She asked if something was wrong. I almost said no. Instead, I said, "I think I've been quiet for a long time." The silence after that felt heavier than any argument. Not hostile, uncertain. I didn't know where this was going, only that I couldn't undo the noticing. Once the quiet starts talking, ignoring it becomes the loudest lie. No clarity, no courage, just the same ceiling and the same quiet. But something had shifted. Not loudly, not enough to point at, just enough to make pretending harder. At breakfast, she asked me a simple question. Are you happy? It wasn't an accusation. It wasn't emotional. It was honest. I stared at my coffee longer than necessary. I don't know, I said. That was new. For years I had answers ready. Good ones. Safe ones. But that morning, I don't know, felt closer to the truth than any reassurance. She nodded slowly, didn't smile, didn't panic. I think, she said carefully, you've been living like someone else's life fits you well enough. That sentence landed harder than any argument we'd ever had. Later that day, I called in sick. Not because I was ill, because I couldn't keep functioning on autopilot. I walked for hours, no destination, no productivity. I noticed things I'd ignored for years, how tense my shoulders always were, how often I rushed without being late, how rarely I let myself stop. I sat on a bench and watched people pass, each of them carrying something invisible, expectations, regrets, hope. I realized something uncomfortable. No one was coming to give me permission. Not to change, not to disappoint, not to become unfamiliar. That evening, I told her the truth. Not all of it, just enough. I don't know who I am right now, I said, but I know I can't keep pretending I do. She listened, really listened. I don't need you to have answers, she said. I just need you to stop disappearing. That night, I didn't make decisions. I didn't plan a new life. I didn't burn anything down. I simply made a promise, small, private, to pause before saying yes, to notice when my chest tightens, to let discomfort exist without fixing it. Weeks later, nothing looked dramatically different. Same job, same city, same relationship. But inside there was space, uncomfortable, uncertain, real. Choosing yourself doesn't feel like winning. It feels like standing still while everything familiar asks if you're sure. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't rush to answer.